Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of Expertly Dyed Art by Science, and this is the next video in the Fleece to Project series, where we take a fleece that we worked on so far in the first couple of videos, and we'll eventually turn it into a shrug, which is in the description below. You'll find a link for the free pattern on my blog. And this is sort of to help beginners who haven't done any kinds of projects with fleeces before to kind of get into the habit of, figuring how much you're going to need and how to do the processing and, sort of conceptualize the finished project when this is all you're looking at. Anyway, in the last video, we basically took the lock and turned it into batts. We opened them up, we put them through the drum carder, and we kept in mind to leave a small opening, maybe about an inch, half an inch on either side here, so that the fiber doesn't fall off onto the edges. And so you have this little strip, these little bits, where this actually came off of this. It's just so much bigger than the Swift here, because it's a really poofy fiber. Anyway, so those were the tips covered in the last video, and if you haven't seen that, please head over and check it out now. Now we have gone through the drum carder once. All of these have gone through the drum carder once. Now, if you want to, you can just put them through individually. Again, you just split this down the middle and you put it through that way, and you would recard this batt. But because I want something a little bit more uniform in terms of texture and a little bit with color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many batts I have. 1, 2, that's a big one. Wow. 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 batts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big guy and count that as 2. I don't know why this is so big, but it is. And then, yeah. So I have these 2, and then I have, I dropped it. I have these 2, and I have these 2. So what I'm going to do is this big old batt I'm going to split in half. So we have basically 3 batts for each pile. So pile A, which I'm going to just put over there, and then we have pile B. 1, 2, 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to further divide these into thirds. If you can't do thirds by eyeballing it, it's okay. It's really just a matter of practice for me. So you're going to put your thumbs through, make a hole in the middle, and kind of work your hands up to separate it, and then down to separate it. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to create 3 different piles. So you're going to have 1/3 from each of these batts that we originally started with. This is one of the more optimal ways to blend your batts together to make sure that there's a uniform texture and a uniform color. It's a little bit over the top, but I just prefer doing this method if I'm going to have a larger project, especially if like the fleece that I have has some good spots and some bad spots. I can use this process to incorporate it all to get sort of a uniform texture. So if you have a free fleece and you want to use it somehow, this might actually be a really good project. You can incorporate this free fleece with something else that you have that could sort of help diminish those aspects of your free fleece that you may not like so much. Alright? And you can kind of maybe see here, there's a little bit of a color change. I'll be right back 1 second. I need to make sure that the camera is focusing alright. 1 second. I think we're good. Okay. sorry about that. Just want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Makes no point if you can't really see, since it is a video. It's part of the point. Oh, but yeah, anyway, I was saying, you can kind of, it's really difficult to tell because of the lighting. It's supposed to rain today, so the outdoor lighting is kind of overcast. But the bottom color here, this one is just a little bit paler than the top color here, and that will basically disappear when they all get carded together. Okay. Alright, so we have our 3 piles. Now, I just kind of wrap these into little bundles so that I can toss them out of the way while they're not in use. Now basically, you just wrap it around your hand, and I add just a little bit of twist, like that, so that it's not quite so poofy. And now I'm going to work with this one. Now these are kind of already in strips that I would put on here as is, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this in half, like that. And, sorry, I think I have something stuck in my throat. A little frog. And I'm going to open it like this and kind of see it's a little bit see-through. And if you need to, sorry, if you need to fluff it out a little bit more this way, you can do that as well. Alright, now this is ready to go through the drum carder. Now, with this, you don't have to worry quite as much about leaving space on either side, because these are already going to be pretty nicely aligned because of the little extra bit that we did in the first pass. So you don't have to worry about that this time. And then we're going to pick our next bundle, the long piece. Remember, this is the part that we tore off. And we are just going to do a combination of ABC, ABC to create this batt. Fluff it open. It's also really important with this step that these little bits on the edge here, they don't get flipped under like this. Because when you're putting it on the drum carder, you'll be able to see that there's going to be a flipped under part. And if you card this again, which we will in the next video, to incorporate a different color into this and some like special fibers. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to use. But if you put it through a second pass and these little end fibers have gotten flipped under when you put it on here, those fibers are going to get ripped. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure those ends are nice and fluffy when they head into the drum carder. And to some extent on the end side, you want to make sure those are also done in the same manner. And then we're just going to add this little C piece. We already have A and then B to add C. Now at this stage, if there's any stubborn vegetable matter, you can pull it out by hand if you want. But unless, like, if it's just one little piece, that's okay. But if there's a lot, just try and let the drum carder do most of the work. You don't want to do all that now because you'll be sitting here drum carding for an eternity. And there's more fun stuff to be doing. Okay, so we have ABC on here already. Now that was only half, so we're going to add A. We just put C on, now we're going to put A on. Like so. Remember to still go slow at this stage. And if anything pulls, stop. We don't want to ruin the drum carder. And this little bit, this sometimes happens. Okay, so it was a little bit wider than it should have been. So this little bit didn't actually get onto the tine. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to pull this part off and run it through the drum carder again. See, sometimes even I make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. You just, you know, deal with it. It's part of learning a new craft. I've been doing this for a long time, and every day I learn a little something new. Sometimes you guys teach me stuff. Share in the learning. Alright, enough rambling. We're going to put B on. I'm going to try and make sure that it stays within the tines. Going slowly. And so this is doing two things. We're blending the colors, we're blending the textures together. And then we're also putting it through its second pass so that when we spin it, it's going to be very smooth. We won't have to stop and work out knots or vegetable matter as frequently when we do it this way. So there we go. We put ABC, ABC. Now it's all ready to go. I'm just going to pack it down a little bit. This little guy didn't get there all the way. These really small pieces that kind of fall off the edge, I just kind of fold them gently, turn the crank, and then it becomes part of the batt. Alright, so here we go. We're going to remove this. Now, don't use a knitting needle. If I wasn't living in Korea, I probably would have bought the appropriate tool. But because I'm in Korea and I don't even know what kinds of historical fiber processing tools that they had, but I'm pretty sure they didn't use drum carders because wool wasn't as important in Korea as flax and hemp were, and silk, of course. So I think that it would just be pretty much impossible for me to find. I could just get it shipped here from Japan, but I don't know. Maybe I'll look into it when I order some more magazines. Maybe some books. Now, if it's too tough to come off all at once, don't force it. Do it in sections like I'm doing here. It's fine. And I think this might be a little crooked. It's moving quite a lot. Oh, it is. It was crooked. Alright. Sorry, I'm really goofy in this video and I don't know why. Maybe the summer heat is getting to me. Alright, and then we're just going to take off this batt. And now you notice when I take this off, there are a couple ways you can do it, but the way that I'm doing it is you can kind of maybe see there's some fibers here. Right? I'm trying to grab very close to the drum carder when I pull, because the fibers are overlapping each other. If I pull one, especially if it's the one closest to the cloth, it's going to pull the ones on top of it. And simultaneously, because they're all shifted like this, if I pull this one up, this one that's overlapping with it, it will want to come too. But because fibers will draft past each other unless it's felted, if I don't also try and grab the fiber that's overlapping it, it'll just draft apart. And then that will be left on the drum carder. So this is one of the reasons I tend to get most of the fiber off my drum carder. So, see if we can get some good lighting here. This is already just incredibly fluffy. It's very soft, and it's pretty much spinnable at this point. Now, if we're trying to make it more spinnable, we're not going to get much for the effort of going from the second to the third pass. So at this point, I'm going to consider this ready for blending. So this was just to get all the fibers aligned. If you're doing a project and all you want is one color, no extra add-ins or anything like this, you can just spin from this. If you have a fleece that needs a little bit more work, definitely put it through for a third pass or something that has a lot of vegetable matter. You know, when you take it off, shake it onto, you know, something that's easy to clean up, and then put it through the third time. But like I said, this is ready to spin in this form. And then we're going to do that for these other guys. And then we're going to do this. Now, I know this seems like a lot of work, but it definitely goes by really quickly. I can make bats like this. I could do about between 6 and 8 of them in an hour. And that's just from practice. I'm not trying to go really quickly because I sweat pretty easily. So if I can do 6 or 8 an hour, you can definitely do 6 or 8 an hour. So it looks like a lot of work, but it's really fast work. And then you get on to the exciting stuff, which is the blending. And if you want, you can stop and skip the next video, or if you want to see the kinds of things that I blend together and how I do the blending, stay tuned for the next video. If you have any questions or comments, you can post below, share, give me a thumbs up. You can find me on Facebook and you can follow me on Twitter. And if you want to know what's going on with me or other expertly dyed stuff, you can find that also on my blog. Alright? Bye!